So, one of the things I usually do after writing an initial draft of a novel is I go back in and try to focus on making the main character seem more realistic, like making sure the reader feels like this is just a snippet or an excerpt from a real person's life. The character needs to feel like they have a history that came before this book and a future that will continue after the book has ended. And one way to do I do this is oftentimes I will write out a history for the main character. Like I'll figure out what kind of childhood they had, how their parents treated them, and how that treatment affected the main character. Because as you know, we all have our various quirks, our major fears, and like good qualities too. A lot of all of those things stem from how we were treated as children and the things we experienced as children. So it's really important to me to make sure that I understand what the main character's childhood was like. And then another thing I'll do to make the main character feel more realistic is I will take a Myers Briggs personality test as if I'm the main character from my story. And then the results that I get that tell me what type of personality I have, they're very detailed results. They'll shed more light onto why the main character acts the way they do. And the results to this test usually also help me to refine my plot. Because once I have information about this character's childhood, what they experienced, and then more information from a personality test that lets me dive deeper into um, who they are psychologically, I'm able to realize okay, this character would actually not want this thing that has informed the plot. Because, as you know, like a lot of the plot comes to life from knowing the one thing that the main character wants more than anything in the world. That is the thing that is their desire for that thing is what fuels the main character to push through this story. Now, what is the main character pushing through? They're pushing through the obstacles that are barring them from getting that one thing that they want. Okay. But sometimes when I have written the first draft of my novel, I don't really know the main character yet. Maybe I have more of an idea of what I want the plot to be. And then I start writing with the plot in mind, but not a clear main character. And sometimes, in fact, often what happens is as I'm writing, the character becomes more clear to me little by little, and they become even more important than the plot of the story. So by the time I'm finished writing that first draft, I realize that, wait a second, this plot is actually wrong for this character. This person who grew up in these conditions and whose personality is like A, B, and C, they would not want this one thing that I have made this story centered around. The desire that I've centered this story around. That would not be this main character's desire. So then I have to actually go back in and sort of adjust the plot so that it matches the main character's personality. Like, for example, let's take the story of a simple story like Little Red Riding Hood. Um, I think that if I remember correctly, the point of Little Red Riding Hood, that story, was I think she was trying to get home. Let's just say she was trying to get home or get to her grandmother's house. And then this wolf came chasing after her. So her desire is to get to her grandmother's house. The obstacle is the wolf. Now, let's say I go in knowing that is my plot, but I don't really know my main character yet. So I'm writing the story with this plot in mind. Um, but as I start to write, I realize, you know what? I feel like this character wants to be not a timid little girl, but she is an experienced hunter. And I feel like she also doesn't really get along very well with her grandmother. So after I've written the story all the way to the end, on my second pass, when I'm editing it, I'm going to realize the plot needs to change. Because if Red is an experienced hunter, she's going to kill the wolf like really quickly. And if the whole point of her story is that she wants to get to visit her grandmother, well, why would she want to visit her grandmother if she grew up with a strong distaste or dislike for her grandmother? So, yeah, as I guess the point of this is that it is important to make a main character realistic while editing our novels. And sometimes when we do that, we realize that the plot needs to change. And that just, it does mean there's more work to do because you do kind of have to refine your plot and rewrite a lot of your story, which is something I'm doing right now for one of my books. But it's worth it because if you love to write, it just makes the adventure that much more interesting. Thank you for watching.